Guys, I really didn't want to jump into the allocation pool because there's so many people already doing it, and they're doing a good job giving up the information, but I just couldn't resist. Your man is going to give you a little bit of information on what he thinks, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Let's jump into this history lesson. What's going on, YouTube? It's your man Griff, and man, it feels good to be in your own car. Listen, hop in the passenger seat. I'm going to take the wheel, and we're going to go for a ride. But listen, before we take off, a little bit of housekeeping. Listen, guys, if you like the content and you find it to be useful, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. All right, guys, listen, let's get right into it. We're going to start off with a couple fun facts. And what year was the first Corvette Z06 introduced? Well, if you said 1963, you'd be right. Knowing that the Corvette would appeal to the racing community, Chevrolet introduces the model with a race-ready package dubbed Regular Production Option, which is RPO, Z06. Amazing. All right, let's move on to the next one. Fun fact number 2. How many years did Chevy wait between the next Z06? Boom, 38 years. If you guessed 38, you got it again. Amazing. I can't believe that it was 38 years before they reintroduced the Z06 again. That's just crazy. So they introduced the Z06 with the C2, and then we didn't see it again until the C5. All right, let's keep it moving. In 1979, Chevy produced 53,807 Corvettes. This is the highest amount of Corvettes ever produced in a year to date. Okay, why did they produce so many of those cars that year? Because the car had become increasingly popular over a period of time. And that's going to become an important point towards the end of this video. So make sure you watch all the way to the end. All right, listen, so if you haven't noticed by now, that thumbnail was a sarcastic joke. Everything else seems to be on constraint, so why not put the allocations on constraint? They're really not. It was just a joke. So let's just keep on going here. So in 2014, they introduced the C7 Corvette, right? Now in 2014, they produced 37,288 cars. In 2015, they produced 34,240 cars, slightly less, okay? So when we look at the C7 was an amazing vehicle. They modeled it off of the F12. If you ask me, that's what it kind of looked like, okay? So in 2014, when they introduced the car, it took folks a little bit of time to get used to the styling, but once it caught on, it really caught on. So by 2016, they produced 40,689 cars. Now in 2017, you'll notice a dip. There were some things going on with the factory at that time, so there was a reduction in numbers. And by 2018, it was even less than that. They only produced 9,686 cars. Makes me start to think I should have kept my 2018 because it's a bit of a rarity. That is the lowest production, one of the lowest production numbers that they've done, over time, especially for the C7. Now in 2019, things start to ramp back up a little bit, and they produced 34,822 cars, right? So now we move into 2020. They produced 20,368 cars for obvious reasons. We all know what happened in 2020, and it's still somewhat ongoing, okay? Now the C8, again, was modeled off of, in my opinion, another Ferrari, okay? If you look at the image. Now in 2021, folks are starting to realize, wow, this is an amazing car, and for the price point that they introduced it in 2020, I've got to get my hands on one. So the numbers are starting to tick up, even in the trying times with parts issues in 2021. They produced 26,216 cars. Let's keep things moving. Now listen, in 2014, we all know that they did not have a Z06, but in 2015, they reintroduced the Z06. And out of 34,240 cars, 6,980 were Z06 coupes and 1,673 were convertibles. In 2016, folks started to realize how aggressively mean that car was. Very, very fast. So folks started jumping on it, all right? Folks are like, I ought to get myself one of those Z06s. They're crazy. The car is super fast. So look at how the numbers have upticked. All right, out of 40,000 cars, 11,543 were Z06 coupes, 2,732 were convertibles. All right, now in 2017 they introduced the Grand Sport. All right, we all know what happened when the Grand Sport came along. You can look at the numbers tell the truth. Folks like the aggressive look of the Z06, but a lot of us didn't have the budget to get the Z06. So what happens? Introduce the Grand Sport. It had the same aggressive wide body as the Z06, but a little bit less the cost. So what happened? A lot of folks jumped on that Grand Sport bandwagon, and it reduced the amount of Z06s that were produced that year. In 2018, again, we're back to those reduction of numbers, and you're going to see scaled down numbers across the board. 2,353 coupes for the Z06, 449 convertibles. Now, mind you, there was only a total of 9,686 Corvettes, period, made during 2018. Fast forward to 2019, the last visualization that we've seen of the Z06 until now, out of 34,822 cars, 5,965 were Z06 coupes, and 972 were convertibles. Again, those numbers are significantly low. All right. So again, when we look across the historical landscape, the company basically looks at the previous year volume and they look at sales. If sales are up and it seems like there's interest, they go to their suppliers, they get more, and they produce more. Okay. With this brand new Z06 on the market, they had no idea how many they were going to sell day one. Hence where we get into this allocation conversation. Hey, listen, if you made it this far and the content makes sense to you and you're enjoying the content, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up like button and subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of good information coming ahead. So let me give you my opinion. And what you guys got to understand is historical sales of a product. If a sales trend for that product suddenly elevates, the manufacturer can run into some problems because they weren't prepared for the volume. This could be the reason for some of the delays, not all of them, but some of the delays that we've seen. Now, we also know that there were parts delays and performance delays, and I'm certainly sure there's other delays, but this is just one business factor that comes into play here. We also have to understand they're looking to supply cars on a global scale now, right? Got to look at that. So now let's look at how many 2023 Z06 reservations were placed. A whole lot of them. I'm not even going to begin to quantify the number because it just keeps on increasing daily. So it doesn't even make sense for me to try to do that. Guys, listen, oftentimes when you produce a new product, you anticipate how many you're going to sell. And with that anticipation, you order enough parts and equipment to facilitate that number. And that number is in direct correlation to these recent allocations. Now, you can only produce what you have materials for, which in my opinion is not a lot over the next 4 months of the calendar year. Now, as far as the information that's been published about allocation percentages, I'm not even going to begin to get into that because in my opinion it's a little bit subjective. Case in point, what does that mean for the smaller dealerships that are holding Z06 reservations and have not sold a single 3LT model, right? What does it mean for them? So listen, Chevy didn't realize what they had until it was too late, guys. I'm going to repeat it. When you produce a new version of a product, you look at previous sales of that product and you plan your production accordingly. By this I mean you stock enough surplus parts to accommodate your planned first run of the product. Bottom line here, guys, is that they just weren't prepared. So in terms of allocations, there's likely not going to be much this year. Business budgets for increased volumes of Z06 production will most certainly increase for the years ahead because they're going to be able to plan accordingly. Especially with so much pent-up demand, they have to. So listen, guys, don't get upset with the messenger. Give the video a thumbs up for the information that I've shared. And listen, a lot of you guys are going to get a first-year model car, okay? You just are. You got 4 months left in the calendar year, but it's a 2023 and it's going to leak into the actual 2023 calendar year, okay? So a lot of you guys are going to get your cars. It just might not be in the next 4 months. Listen, this is your man Griff. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.